247. Zhang Xianzhong's surprise attack on Xiangyang. In May 1639, Zhang Xianzhong launched another rebellion in Guqing, Hubei. Previously, Zhang had pretended to surrender to the Ming dynasty in Guqing while secretly amassing troops in preparation for another uprising. When Ming officials discovered his true intentions and planned to suppress him, Zhang acted preemptively, killing the county magistrate and burning down the government offices. He then raised the banner of rebellion once more. Shortly after, Luo Rucai, another prominent rebel leader, also rose in arms to support him, defeating the Ming army and facing pursuit. The Ming general Zhuo Liangyu was dispatched to quell the rebellion but suffered a crushing defeat. Only a few hundred of his soldiers survived to retreat. Enraged, Emperor Chongzhen dismissed both the supreme commander, Xiong Wencan, and General Zhuo Liangyu, replacing them with Minister of War Yang Xiangyang, who was given command of the anti-rebel forces. With the emperor's imperial sword of authority, Yang Xiangyang marched into Hubei with 100,000 troops and besieged Zhang Xianzhong's forces in Xiangyang. Zhang was forced to retreat to Manao Mountain, but due to the presence of Ming spies within his ranks, the rebel army was ambushed by Zhuo Liangyu's forces, suffering heavy losses. Zhang lost a large cache of gold, silver, and warhorses, and worst of all, his wife and son were captured. Seeing no alternative, Zhang Xianzhong led 1,000 cavalrymen into Sichuan, hoping to escape Ming pursuit. However, Yang Xiangyang relentlessly pursued him, relocating his own headquarters to Chongqing in an effort to eliminate Zhang's forces in Sichuan. Turning the tables on Yang Xiangyang. To further incentivize Zhang's capture, Yang Xiangyang issued public notices offering 10,000 taels of gold and a noble title to anyone who could deliver Zhang's head. But the very next day, Yang's own headquarters in Chongqing was covered with banners and leaflets, reading, "Whoever delivers Yang Xiangyang's head will be rewarded with 3 taels of silver." This mockery enraged Yang but also shook his soldiers' morale. Although Ming forces repeatedly pursued Zhang's army, the rebels constantly evaded capture, moving unpredictably across Sichuan. Finally, in January 1640, Ming forces caught up with Zhang's troops in Kaisian. At this point, Ming commanders Meng Ruhu and Lu Shiji, exhausted from months of pursuit, believed they had cornered Zhang's forces. However, Zhang Xianzhong led his troops around the mountains and launched a surprise attack from the rear. The Ming army collapsed completely, Lu Shiji was killed, while Meng Ruhu barely escaped. After the battle, Zhang Xianzhong's forces celebrated their victory with song, mocking their pursuers. Before us, Governor Xiao, Sichuan Governor Xiao Jie, dances in circles. Behind us, Inspector Liao, Military Inspector Liao Daheng, follows along without a fight. And Minister Yang Xiangyang, is only 3 feet away. When Ming officials heard this song, they laughed bitterly, but for Yang Xiangyang, it was a humiliation. Surprise attack on Xiangyang. In 1641, Zhang Xianzhong noticed that Yang Xiangyang had concentrated most of his forces in Sichuan, leaving Xiangyang vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, Zhang abandoned Sichuan and swiftly turned east. Marching 300 to 400 li, 150 to 200 kilometers, in a single day and night, he completely outpaced Yang Xiangyang's army. Upon reaching Dangyang, Hubei, Zhang encountered another Ming force blocking his way. He left Luo Rucai behind to engage the Ming troops, while he personally led an elite force straight to Xiangyang. Yang Xiangyang, still in Chongqing, was horrified when he heard that Zhang had doubled back and was now threatening Xiangyang. He sent an urgent messenger to warn the city's defenders and ordered them to fortify the city at all costs. However, as the messenger rushed toward Xiangyang, he was captured by Zhang's forces. In his possession were orders sealed with Yang Xiangyang's official stamp. Zhang immediately devised a bold plan. The fake envoy trick. Zhang called his adopted son, Li Dinghua, and ordered him to disguise himself as Yang Xiangyang's messenger. Dressed in official robes, Li took a few followers, carried the captured documents and seal, and approached Xiangyang under the cover of night. Outside the city gates, Li Dinghua shouted to the guards, claiming to be an envoy from Minister Yang, bearing urgent military commands. The Ming soldiers on guard, seeing the official seal and orders, let him and his men in without suspicion. That night, Zhang's infiltrators spread out across the city and set fires in multiple locations. Panic erupted as flames engulfed Xiangyang, and the residents awoke to chaos. In the confusion, Zhang's main army stormed the gates, overwhelming the city's defenses before the Ming troops could organize a counterattack. The capture of Prince Xiang. Once inside, Zhang's men opened the prisons, freeing captured rebels and their families. Then, they stormed the Xiang Palace, capturing Prince Xiang, Zhu Yiming, a member of the Ming royal family. Zhang sat in the grand hall of the palace and ordered the prince to be brought before him. Prince Xiang trembled in fear, collapsing to his knees, begging for mercy. Zhang scoffed. "I don't want your money, I just need your head." Hearing this, the prince frantically kowtowed, pleading, "My palace has gold and silver. Take as much as you want, just spare my life." Zhang burst into laughter, replying, "Since I've taken Xiangyang, your treasures are mine anyway. But without your head, how can I send Yang Xianzhong a message?" With a single command, Prince Xiang was dragged outside and executed. Disaster for the Ming, Yang Xianzhong's suicide. With Xiangyang captured, Zhang seized vast stores of food, weapons, and silver that Yang Xianzhong had stockpiled. He even distributed 100,000 taels of silver to the starving citizens, who rejoiced at the prince's execution. When news of Xiangyang's fall reached Sichuan, Yang Xianzhong was utterly stunned. His entire military strategy had collapsed. The rebels had outmaneuvered him completely, capturing a Ming prince right under his nose. As he fled to Hubei, Yang received even more shocking news. Li Zicheng's forces had left the Shanluo Mountains, regrouped, and overrun Luoyang, killing Prince Fu, Zhu Changshuan. Now facing total humiliation and inevitable punishment from the emperor, Yang Xianzhong saw no way out. He took his own life, bringing a bitter end to one of the Ming dynasty's top commanders. 248. Li Yin and Red Madam. When Li Zicheng left Shanluo and entered Hunan, the province was suffering from a severe drought. Tens of thousands of starving peasants were wandering the land in search of food. Upon hearing that Li Chuanwang, dashing King Li, had returned, the people flocked to join him, desperate for relief. One day, a group of starving peasants brought a scholarly young man to meet Li Zicheng. When asked about his background, the young man introduced himself as Li Yan, also known as Li Xian. He had just been rescued from prison in Qixian, Hunan. Li Yan, the benevolent scholar. Li Yan was the son of a wealthy family in Qixian. A few years earlier, as famine devastated the region, countless farmers ran out of food. Unlike most wealthy families, Li Yin took food from his own stores and shared it with the starving peasants, a rare act of generosity from someone of his background. The grateful commoners began calling him Li Gongzi, young Master Li. As years of drought continued, the people's suffering worsened, but the county magistrate continued demanding taxes. Fearing that desperation would lead to an uprising, Li Yan pleaded with the magistrate to temporarily halt taxation and distribute government grain to the starving people. The magistrate coldly refused, saying, "The imperial court is pressuring me to deliver taxes and military supplies. If I don't collect from the people, how will I account for it? Besides, the government granary is already empty. If grain must be lent out, let the wealthy families provide it." Seeing that the magistrate would not help, Li Yan opened his family's granary and distributed over 200 stone, about 24,000 liters, of grain to the famine-stricken peasants. While the poor rejoiced, the problem was far from solved. There were too many starving people, and Li's personal wealth could not sustain everyone. Some villagers suggested gathering in groups to petition other wealthy families for grain. However, these other landowners refused, insulting the hungry peasants and denying they had any food. Enraged, the starving people stormed a grain warehouse and distributed the food among themselves. Li Yan is betrayed and arrested. Terrified, the landlords reported the incident to the magistrate, who declared the peasants rebels and sent enforcers to suppress them. The officials threatened the villagers, warning them, "If you gather like this again, you will be severely punished." But the starving people were beyond fear. They grabbed the officials, destroyed their official seals, and marched to the county office, shouting, "We are starving to death anyway. We might as well fight you now." The county magistrate, fearing a full-scale riot, summoned Li Yan and begged him to calm the crowd. Li Yan replied, "If you want to prevent bloodshed, then immediately stop collecting taxes and convince the wealthy to donate grain." Reluctantly, the magistrate agreed, and the peasants dispersed, hoping that food would soon be provided. However, once the crowd left, the magistrate betrayed his promise. He feared that failing to collect taxes would cost him his position. Blaming Li Yan for stirring up the unrest, he falsely accused him of plotting rebellion and reported him to the imperial authorities. Red Madam rescues Li Yan. Word of this betrayal spread quickly, and many villagers feared for Li Yan's safety. Nearby, a rebel force led by a young woman known as Red Madam, Hong Yangzi, had been watching the situation. A former traveling martial artist, Red Madam admired Li Yan's bravery in aiding the poor. Hearing that he was in danger, she rushed to his home, urging him to flee into the mountains. However, Li Yan was reluctant. Not fully understanding her intentions, he escaped from her camp and returned home, only to be arrested by waiting officers. As the magistrate's enforcers shackled him and dragged him to the county prison, the people of Xiangyang cried out, "Can we stand by and watch as young Master Li suffers?" Hearing the news, Red Madam gathered her troops, and hundreds of armed peasants stormed the county prison, breaking open the gates. The county officials and enforcers fled, allowing the rebels to free Li Yan. At that point, Li Yan realized he could no longer return home. He finally accepted Red Madam's invitation and joined the peasant uprising. Li Yan joins Li Zicheng. When Li Zicheng heard about Li Yan's background, he saw potential in him. Though a wealthy scholar by birth, Li Yan was a victim of persecution and understood the suffering of the people. More importantly, Li Zicheng's growing army needed a strategist. Li Yan, already familiar with Li Zicheng's reputation, fully committed himself to the cause. He advised the rebel leader to implement a clear political vision, arguing that military victory alone was not enough. The people had to believe in a better future. Reforming the rebel army. Under Li Yan's guidance, Li Zicheng strengthened army discipline, forbidding soldiers from pillaging or killing civilians. He also adopted Li Yan's proposal of proclaiming equal land distribution, tax exemption. To spread their message, Li Yan disguised soldiers as merchants and sent them into cities controlled by the Ming army. These operatives spread word that Li Zicheng's forces were disciplined, fair, and protective of the people. This was in stark contrast to the imperial forces, who were notorious for looting and murdering civilians. As a result, public support shifted towards Li Zicheng. Folk songs, composed by Li Yan, began circulating among the peasants. Eat from the rich, wear from the rich. Open the gates and welcome the dashing king. When the dashing king arrives, no more taxes. With popular support growing, Li Zicheng's army became unstoppable. Victory in the Central Plains. In 1643, Li Zicheng's forces stormed Luoyang, executing Prince Fu, Zhu Changshuan, a notoriously corrupt Ming noble. Shortly after, his army advanced towards Tongguan, where they defeated the Ming Minister of War, Sun Quanting, and took control of Xi'an. The fall of Xi'an marked the beginning of the Ming dynasty's collapse, as Li Zicheng's rebellion spread across China.